Welcome to the 24K Life podcast, where we don't just talk about money, we talk mission. I'm your host, Derick Gant, and around here, we redefine wealth as the full expression of your highest self, mentally, physically, spiritually, and financially. This is the space where purpose meets profit, where your bag gets built from the inside out. Each episode, we break down real strategies, unlearn toxic money beliefs, and unlock the power to live boldly, love deeply, and lead unapologetically. So if you're ready to stop playing small, elevate your frequency, and design a life that feels as rich as it looks, let's get to work. Welcome to the 24K Life. Abundance is your birthright. Clarity is your compass. Let's walk in excellence together. Today, we have a very special guest. Now, you already know that I am a jealous guy, and because of that, I am not bringing any other financial people on to the podcast, which is not true. I've done it a couple times. But for the most part, we don't bring other financial gurus on the website, on the podcast. But today, we got someone special. So hold on. I'm going to introduce you to her.
I'm sure you've heard the news. Financial freedom is within your reach, thanks to Derick Gant. With over 25 years of experience, Derick's 24K life philosophy transforms everyday challenges into stepping stones for success. Imagine mastering your finances, setting and crushing your goals, and shifting your mindset to elite levels. Derick empowers you with tools for financial freedom and measurable results. His strategies are crafted to ensure you live the life you've always dreamed of. From his book to engaging workshops and online content, Derick's insights are designed just for you. Start your journey today and turn your aspirations into achievements. Visit DerickGant.com. It's time to live your 24K life. Are you ready?
I hope you're ready. We have Miss Keva Sturdevant. She is a guru. Did you hear what I said earlier? I won't bring any other gurus on. So I already warned you that she is her. She's her. And I was blessed and honored to be able to meet her a while ago. And if our principles, philosophies, strategies, even some of our experience lines up so equally that I just had to have her on, because she's going to give us the feminine version of all that masculinity that I dole out. And maybe we can come to a balanced equilibrium to help you figure out how to elevate your wealth game. Keva, welcome to the 24K Life podcast.
Eric, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that really jovial introduction. I so appreciate you. And you know what? I'm trying to grow up to be like you, to be honest. I am.
Well, let me before everybody gets all excited about her saying thank you and want to grow up and be like me, let me tell you all about her juice. I'm going to tell you about her bag. What's in the bag? She has well over 30 years, and she looks like she's 22, so we got to go back and check. She might be fibbing on to us. But anyway, she has over 30 years as an experienced professional financial consultant. She's worked with some of the biggest firms in the country, from Morgan Stanley to Merrill Lynch. She has, check this out, she has taught in over 45 different HBCUs. Now, for those of you that don't know what an HBCU is, shame on you, but it is a historically Black college or university that she has taught at, and she teaches a variety of things. She's reached over 25,000 students. She's done some work with some professional sports team to try to help them knuckleheads not be broke 5 years after they retire or leave the league. And she's been featured in Kidsville News, national publications featuring financial literacy articles for Parent Town. She was also the Living Smart financial contributor for WUSA TV 9 in Washington, D.C. She has been on Beyond the Bling on satellite radio. Oh, my God. Her resume is just killer. So welcome to the show again. And we are excited because, you and I get to have some really in-depth conversation. I'm going to ask you to keep it in layman's terms, but you teach financial literacy, so I'm not really worried about you doing that. So, but my first question, though, I got to ask this question because I, as you, have been around for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are, and I shouldn't probably say this because I don't know this to be actually factual. I'm just going to go by the experiences that I've had in the few firms that I was in before I became independent. But most of us are in this for the money, right? I mean, they're in it for the money. You work at Merrill Lynch and you're trying to get that $10 million bonus, that $1 million bonus. You're trying to get your company stock and you're trying to get your insider trading information. First of all, Keva, I don't know how much you know about me, but I'm going to say everything.
I love it.
If I think it, it's coming out of my mouth.
I love it. Look, is there any other way to live?
Okay, hey, I said in my introduction, living boldly and unapologetically. So that's 24K away. So my question to you is that you spent so much time recently educating folks and students, trying to change I call it changing the trajectory of generational poverty. But because you're not with these big firms right now, I'm assuming that you're not doing it for the money. And I think it's a pretty safe bet. But why don't you tell us, how did you make that transition from really hammering away on bringing in big clients with millions of dollars and getting your big commission checks to wanting to teach financial literacy?
Yes, that's a great question. So corporate America wouldn't change a thing about my experience with corporate America at all. It taught me so much, Derick. It taught me so much. I literally got to the point where I wanted to just go share the knowledge I was receiving, as you said earlier, in layman's terms. Like, I just wanted to say it in layman's terms. And those big fancy clients at the Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley, nothing wrong with them, but they wanted to hear all the big fancy words. And I just really didn't feel like I was serving, the demographic I was supposed to be serving. Mm-hmm. And so my clients are the average, everyday working person that may not have access to this knowledge of this entire world of money and investing and finance. And so I made the transition back in 2008, actually 2009. What a tumultuous time to do that, right?
Right.
But yeah, I, share with my clients, I was, going to go hang out my own shingle and focus in another direction. Left my client base in corporate America with a team. I formed a team. And I literally just started teaching. And so, yes, I've been to over 45 HBCUs. That was absolutely amazing to teach the students. Because here's one thing that we need to teach our young people. Number one, I know you probably said this before, Derick, money is a tool. Money is a tool to be utilized to your advantage. It's not something to chase. And also teaching the young people, and actually my clients, money can serve in really 4 primary areas. Money can serve you in 4 ways. Of course, we've got to spend it, paying bills and all that, but it's meant to be saved. It's meant to be invested, and it's meant to be philanthropic and to give back to the community. Those are my 4 pillars when it comes to money.
I love it. Those are great 4 pillars. I mean, when we teach, I was at a wedding last weekend and sat next to this couple. And they have a couple small kids, and they were saying how they were forcing the kids to, or this youngest kid was 12. Said, save all your money. So they had to save everything.
Right.
That's a losing proposition for that kid.
No fun.
Because you know about the PK, the preacher's kids.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know about the PKs, the preacher's kids, those are the kids that grew up in the church. And as soon as they could cut loose, like in college, they were the worst people on the planet because they were pent up with all that goodness. And they just had to go taste that apple. And so they didn't just taste it, man. They ate the whole orchard. But my point to this couple, Keva, was that, listen, let's teach them real life. So in real life, you can't save 100%. So how about we have them save half and then have them give away 10%, which is the traditional church tithe. But I told them to give it to the church, but give it away. Help some poor kids that need some socks. And then the other 40%, let them decide how much of that they want to use or spend. And to be honest with you, it's not going to be enough to do anything they really want to do. So they still need to save it to accumulate to buy that pair of shoes or that video game or whatever. And they were looking at me and they were like, you know what? It just makes way too much sense. And I said, this is what the problem is that kids do not learn finances, personal economics in the house, because they're definitely not teaching it in school.
Right.
And only 17 of our 50 great states have a requirement to teach financial literacy in school. So having you at the HBCUs and teaching this in college, when right before these kids are going to get their first big paycheck, is amazing. But what was one of the biggest misconceptions that you kind of realized through educating these youngsters?
Right. So one of their biggest misconceptions was my credit isn't important in college. And it's very important because, as we all know, once they graduate, they go to get that job. Of course, they're going to look at your transcripts, but the second document they're going to pull is your credit report.
Mm-hmm.
And so teaching them how to build credit responsibly, because, sometimes people use credit as a lifestyle loan, right? Like, that's not the way we use credit. You got to use credit to your advantage, to position you well to pay the least amount of interest when you go to buy a car, and a home when you get to that point. But I was teaching the students, Derick, that, yes, I need you to get a credit card. And I had to be so careful with this. I'm not saying go get in debt. Secure a credit card, and teaching them what their rights were around a credit card. Teaching them you can set your limit to whatever you want it below what they will grant you. Mm-hmm. So if your first credit card has a $500 limit and it's with, I'm just going to say Visa or MasterCard, you call them and say, thank you. I'm looking forward to a long-standing relationship, Mr. Visa, Mr. MasterCard. But can you take my limit down to $100 because I'm new to credit? That is their legal right, and they don't know that.
Right.
And so I said to them, take it down to a $100 limit. Never spend or charge more than $20 on that card, ever. Yeah. And just do that for the remainder of your time here on campus. By the time you graduate, yes, you will have a solid credit score, and you built it on $20 a month or $10 a month, whatever it was.
Absolutely. That responsibility in the history is part of it. And obviously the amount of outstanding debt on that card is all part of it. I would have imagined, though, just from my peers years and years ago, and for some of the clients that I've worked with over the years, that wasn't the biggest problem. Now, let's stick with that before I change the subject. I think the game is just terrible because these credit card companies or banks will set up shop on campus at the lunch counter, giving away cookies, or in the student unions giving away T-shirts or something these kids need,
right?
Or free money. Right, we'll give you the $50 to open up this account, and the kids have no knowledge on how to use these cards, and then they end up graduating in a bunch of debt. And I think it's just terrible the way that do they still do that? Do you know if they still allow?
I don't think they're allowed. I don't think they're allowed anymore, but I do know the parent has to be the co-signer. So
really? They need a co-signer now.
Yeah, they are acquiring that credit card. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So well, they didn't do that on their own. I'm sure somebody imposed that restriction on them, but that's a great restriction.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, I bet you the bigger problem, at least from my perspective, was the people who got student loans who didn't need them and then used that money as a lifestyle, to facilitate their fun. And then they had these big student loans and they used them for living expenses when they didn't need it. So did you have that experience in your classroom?
Yeah, I did. You hit it on the head, Derick. And so I would always talk about, I sound like a parent at that point, roll over, the refund to the next year. Mm-hmm. They're looking at me like I'm a green-eyed monster, like what? Exactly. With a green head or whatever you call it. Yeah. But, I was just giving them the information to make those decisions that they would be so glad they made by the time they graduated, But credit was number one, because that's competitiveness.
It is.
Yeah, like when you graduate, you can have, a solid GPA, but if you have no credit history and it's a candidate that does, and it's positive credit history, the candidate with the great credit history is probably going to get hired because it's a judge of character. And I always would say that to them. Your credit report is a judge of character because they don't know who you are. Right. You performed in school. You did everything you were supposed to do, but they want to judge you. What kind of person is this? Around money, especially if you're going to go in the area of finance, they definitely want to look at that credit report.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you think, from your experience, was the biggest difference between working with people with resources and people without resources? And I can clarify that question for those if you want me to, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, absolutely.
Okay, people with resources. Most of the people that I worked with had $500,000 or more, or $250,000 or more, and we were investing those dollars for their life and their lifestyle. And by the way, you transitioned in 2008. I transitioned in 2001 when the internet bubble burst. So
wow.
We both picked the absolute worst time to go out on our own. But people without resources are people that are living check to check, or they have less than, in my opinion, I would say less than $10,000 saved up. You really don't have discretionary resources. So that's what I mean for the listener, so that you can answer the question. But so what did you think is the biggest difference in mindset? I'm assuming it's mindset between those two.
It is. The individuals that had that $500,000, Derick, to come on board, they were fine with educating themselves around money, and they surrounded their money with experts. Mm-hmm. That's how they become wealthy. I know I'm preaching to the choir. You know this.
No, you're preaching to the crowd because you're right. I know, but this is for the benefit of people. Both of us are here for y'all. We're here for y'all, just in case you don't know this. So go ahead.
Right. Those that didn't have the resources, I would say the number one reason was just not knowing what to ask. Just not knowing what to ask.
What to ask, or who to ask.
Or who to ask. Where do I go? Who can I trust? Mm-hmm. Because, of course, Derick, we have to, our clients have to lay their entire financial life in front of us. That's a huge step of trust, right?
Oh my gosh. I used to tell people all the time, like especially new clients. I say, listen, let me tell you something. I'm number 3, and I have an ego, in case you didn't catch that already. But I used to tell them, listen, I'm number 3 on the list. They're like, what are you talking about? I said, I am number 3 on the list. This is okay. Well, what list? Your list. Your spouse, your kids, or your kids, your spouse, your God, and then me. Because when somebody dies, guess who gets the second phone call?
Right.
We do.
Exactly.
How much money do we have? Right?
Right.
And so people are instantaneously looking for you because their money, after their spouse, their kids, and their God, that's the most important thing to them. So you would say what to ask and who to ask. I would ask you, are they asking?
Well, I'm a particular age, so most of my client base is referral at this point. But when I first started, I just would, do workshops and seminars and all that, schlepping orange juice and donuts, to the church basement. That's literally where I started. So it was just, okay, now how do I start the dialogue? So, if someone came to my class, I tried to just drop as many nuggets as I could. I wanted the light bulb to go off, like, I really never thought of money in that way. Or I always tried to give those that attended just a nugget that they could use immediately outside of the class, right? And so when I began to, share those nuggets and build that trust, individuals will call and say, hey, you know what? I really need to get some answers to some financial questions that I have. And it just takes, over time. It's just trust. That's it. And it takes so long to build, of course, but it's doable. And I've always said this to clients too. They say, Keva, how do you know what advisor to hire? Interview 3 advisors, money coaches, financial planners, whatever you want to call us. Interview 3 and let them know you're interviewing 3 professionals, and you're going to make a decision on one because you're building a team. You're going to weed out.
Interview 3, but then what? Just gut feeling after that?
It's what they talk about. So here's the thing. In my opinion, if you meet with an advisor and they start talking about solutions and product, it's a no. Mm-hmm. In that meeting, you, the person that's interviewing the individual, should be doing the most talking, and they should be doing the listening.
Right.
If they're talking about themselves, what they can do, what they did for their clients, blah, 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 and it's like, oh, wait, no, you have to dial into your client. You do. It's just like minimal, you don't need to prove, what can I say? They should just be listening to the client.
Yeah.
And here's another question I always said to my clients that you want to ask an advisor that you're looking to hire. How often do you meet with your clients, Mr. or Miss Advisor? If they say, oh, I meet once a year, twice a year, to me, that's the wrong answer. The answer is, Mr. or Mrs. Client, how often would you like to meet with me?
Exactly.
Like, I understand, once a year, twice a year, but in the beginning, you're going to really have a lot of interaction. I always said that's a very telltale sign. It's all about the client.
It is. But you mentioned that, and I'm gonna make a statement, and then I have another question for you.
Yeah.
So I always found that the more money someone had, the less they called me. And the less money people had, the more they called me. So I'd have somebody give me 10 grand. When I first started, I'd take whatever they had to invest. And the person with 10 grand would call me, and they'd be calling me every month or so. And the people with millions, I'd have to call him. Hey, will you please come in? Let's review your stuff.
Right.
I trust
I'm matching your money over here,
Yeah, they're like, I trust you. You're fine. I look at my statements. Did you find that to be the case also? Isn't it strange?
It really is. It's so funny to hear another professional experience that too. I take it's two different frames of thought for me. And it's, those that have the wealth or the assets or whatever, they're used to having money.
Right.
So it's not a stressor for them. And they know they've hired the professional, obviously, because they hired you and they know that they're good.
Right.
A lot of times, those that don't have the assets, they're worried. Yeah. They show up worried. We just have to take them on that journey of solutions and answers and growth. And when they start seeing it, they call less. But when that relationship is new with you, and their relationship is new with money, they are going to call. And it's fine.
You're from the Northwest Ohio area, and this is probably wrong of me. I probably shouldn't say probably. It was wrong of me, and I did it as nicely as I could. But I remember on multitude of occasions talking to a client. They're in my office. My office was across the street from the biggest mall in our area.
Okay.
And they would be going on and on and on, and I would be trying to explain to them. And I use the same example even to this day when I'm doing my financial literacy, and people's, they're looking for, well, what's a good return? I said, well, if I can get you 10% year in and year out, I wouldn't be talking to you. I'd be in Hawaii on a beach with a laptop because I'd be a billionaire. So 10 year in and year out is a really great number. But I used to tell people, they would just be bitching. Well, I only got 7%, or I only got 10%, or I should be getting this or that. I said, listen. You have $1,000 in your account.
Right.
Okay. I can pull out and give you the 10% interest that you are so desperately wanting and send you over to the mall, and you couldn't buy a complete outfit. Right. You can see the wheels turning in their head. Like, you're just like, so I need you to calm down and worry about accumulating some revenue, because if you saved $100 a month, that's going to be 100% gain on the $1,000 that you have in your account right now. So forget about the interest. Let's get some money. And they would say, oh, you put it like that. Okay. And then the other thing I would get would be, well, how much do you make? I said, I didn't make enough money to take you to lunch. Yeah, I didn't make enough money today to make on what we just did to take you to lunch.
Right.
And you're worried about what I made. Okay.
Yeah. You know how I got clients to get away from that? Well, I'm going to say this right now because I've gotten to this juncture in my career. If someone comes out the box talking about what returns you get your clients, I will not take them as a client.
Really?
Take every client. No. They're trading advisors regularly. They're chasing returns.
Okay.
Here's how I really helped my clients pull away from that, because, there's headlines, there's shows, everyone's these talking heads about investing and everything. Here's what I would tell my clients. This is the beauty of numbers. It's an exact science. Okay, Mr. or Miss Client, you showed up and it's like, let's say you've got 25,000. They're just getting started, right? And they're saying, Keva, you know what? I want this 25,000 to grow to 500,000, and I wanted to grow that in 30 some years. I'm just throwing out numbers. Here's what it is. We're going to put together a portfolio that is going to deliver the return you need over that 30 years to get you to that $500,000. Going to be a roller coaster ride. There's going to be great days. There's going to be bad days. But you're going to get to that $500,000 in 30 years because we're going to be very selective with our investments. And here's the other term that I like to introduce to my clients. We're not going to take unnecessary risk. So I will calculate exactly what return they need to receive in that 30-year period, put together a portfolio that's going to throw off that return. Don't take any more risk than that because that's called unnecessary risk.
Amen to that. So here's the question I wanted to ask you. Yeah. I think it's a great question. You see my ego peeking out every once in a while?
I'm having fun.
Yeah. So you said that you help clients or potential clients by saying, they said, how do you know to pick an advisor? And they said, go interview 3. But what do you tell them, or what do you believe with your experience is the difference between having a CPA, a CFA, a money coach with no credentials, a investment advisor with no certified credentials other than the fact that he passed all their security, they passed all the securities tests.
Right.
How does that come into play in the form of a conversation for a client or potential client, or better yet, just the average listener? So they're listening, they want to go find an advisor that's going to help them. By nature, you think that, okay, well, I need to select the one that says MD. But that's not really the case as far as I'm concerned. What's your opinion about that? How do you help people figure that out?
Yeah, that's another great question. So during that interview of the 3 individuals, credentials are important. They are. However, in my opinion, those that work for firms are under more pressure to make sales. I think we all know that, right? And so the firms make their employees give all those initials behind their name, right? Nothing wrong with it, but to attract more clients. But here's the difference. I'm a fee-only advisor, coach. I don't take custody of client assets, any of that. I want to spend time with my client because I'm going to take them on a financial journey. It's not about a transaction and the next client. So when you're looking for that advisor, one of the first questions you want to ask is, how are you compensated? Now, I know we talked about don't get in my purse, but just you want to know how that advisor is. Are you incentivized on selling me a particular product? Is there a product of the day at your company and that's what you're selling? Or if you only sell one thing, and I'm just going to pick on insurance, okay? And I have my insurance license, but I'm going to pick on insurance.
No, pick on insurance. I have mine too, and I've been sold in 100 years, but
okay.
Pick away.
If insurance is the only thing that, you are, you have your license, well, guess what? Every client in front of you, you're going to make the solution insurance, and that's not fair.
100%.
It's not fair. So credentials are great, but you have to dial into your client to see what they need. So you ask how they're compensated, ask how often they meet with their clients. Here's the other big question. Ask your potential advisor, what is your investment philosophy? Yeah. If it doesn't roll off of their tongue pretty smoothly and they're grappling, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's your
What did you think, and I think they're still in existence, so I don't want to be rude, but what did you think about the old A.L. Williams?
A.L. Williams, I'm not familiar with them. Where were they located?
A.L. Williams was a national phenomenon when it was one of the early network marketing things with, what was that other one? I can't think of what the other one was. But anyway, what they did.
Were they here in the Ohio? Were they here in Ohio?
They were domestic. It was domestic. What they did was they were hiring auto mechanics. They were hiring plumbers and school teachers to part-time sell financial services. And what they did, what they did was they would say, okay, what you're buying this whole life insurance policy. What you want to do is buy term and then put the difference between the whole life inside of an investment. So it was buy term and invest the difference. And A.L. Williams, and they got bought by somebody. They still around. This is
I've never heard of them.
Really?
A.L. Williams.
Yeah. So I used to it just cracked me up because, it's network marketing. So they would
Yeah.
have, the barber's cutting hair and trying to sell you insurance and investments. And it was hilarious.
It sounds like a violation. It just does.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a violation. It was just, I used to tell people that the philosophy was amazing. I love the strategy. The implementation, however, not going to happen because people aren't disciplined enough to, they're not disciplined enough to put the money in the investments on a consistent basis, number one. Number two, the flaw is if you really did become wealthy and you need insurance for estate planning and you don't get it early enough, then you just priced yourself out of the market. But we can go on since you don't know about that. I just always thought that was funny that a car mechanic.
Never heard of them.
I'm talking to somebody about what they need to do when they're saying, well, hey, a Williams guy, you're just like, okay, what does he do during the day? Oh, he's a professional barber or plumber, or you're like, okay, so all I do is this. I don't fix cars in a part-time. But interesting. So, we chopped it up briefly, and you sent me a Facebook post.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you tell everybody about that Facebook post?
What was the oh my goodness. Yeah,
what was the Facebook post?
Yeah, wait, what? Oh yeah, this morning I saw it on Facebook, and shout out to the comedian Gigi LaFleur. I think she's hilarious. And she was on a podcast talking about how poverty-stricken communities have revolutionized poverty. I mean, when she said that, I was like, it made me start thinking, like, oh, that is so deep.
Let me restate that. She said that we as African Americans have made poverty look cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so because it looks cool, people think that blacks want to be poor. And it was a great comment, and we talked about we said we were going to talk about that.
Yes.
And I think that that is a great conversation to have because we will, and I say we, people without resources, as I mentioned, I can call it resources instead of money. But people without money or resources, will take whatever they get and reward themselves. Right? Don't have any money. I get a little bit of money, like your tax refund, and it's gone before the month is out, right? Because you're going to get caught up on some bills. You're going to buy some things you want to buy. You're going to take your kids to Disney. And these aren't guesses, folks. These are things that I've seen happen.
Oh, yeah.
Time and time again.
Oh, yeah.
And before you know it, they're broke again. And by the time the next tax season comes back around, their bills are behind again. So they caught their bills up, but by the time the next tax season comes, their bills are behind again. And so we've been able to add culture and insightfulness and glamour and interest in any lifestyle, but Black people don't want to be poor.
Here's the thing, great points. And I always say you want to approach your money from a mindset of wealth and not a mindset of lack. And especially in our communities, the Black and brown communities, there's always nervousness, tension, trauma, untrue beliefs around money. So having to unlearn those things around money that really keep money away from us. I'm a big believer. Money has an energy. And the more we respect our money, meaning educating ourselves, having individuals help us with their strategies, insulating and protecting, what we built, and what we're trying to grow, that's when you'll see the shift in how money flows to you. I'm a big believer in that. I've experienced it. When I'm always operating from a mindset of lack and I don't have and I'm short and I'm broke, like, oh, I never say those words.
Never.
Yeah, it's like unlearning and then retooling and reteaching our clients. So when you sit down, go ahead.
No. So let's talk about, because you're just so brilliant that I'm not suggesting you're talking over anybody's head. I am suggesting you're just so smart and you're so articulate with the depth of what you know from teaching at HBCUs. And I understand that you said that people need to change their their direction. They need to come from an abundance mindset or a wealth mindset compared to coming from a poverty mindset. But that's easier said than done. So what would you suggest? You get somebody, let's say, let me give you a scenario. So you get this young girl. She's 30 years old. She has 2 kids. She's not married. She wants to buy a house. She struggled from day 0. Okay, because her parents never really had anything.
Yeah.
Nobody in her universe really has anything. Everybody she knows is living check to check. But she wants to do better. But as you already said, it's her mindset underneath the current that's beating her up. How are you going to help her? And maybe this is where the definition of a money coach comes in. I don't know. But how are you going to help her transition from a poverty or lack mindset to an abundance prosperity mindset?
Yes, good question. You just the best questions, Derick. You do. That's why you get. So, I think I said earlier, when I don't take on every client, but when I do take on a client, they are committed working with me 3 to 6 months. And you've heard me say this: can't teach you 30 years in 2 sessions, 3 sessions. I need a commitment. So I literally make sure my client is mentally prepared to go on this journey together, because I'm going to teach them everything they need to know to soar financially on their own.
Hold up, girl. Hold up. For those of you that are on the radio or in your cars, I'm stopping her because y'all need to reach out to her. She's at Keva Money Coach on IG. Go to IG, hit her up, Keva Money Coach. I had to stop her because she's hitting some nuggets, and I know you're getting excited. And you're going to wonder, well, how do I talk to this woman? Keva, Keva Money Coach on Instagram. Go ahead, Keva. I'm sorry I interrupted your flow, but you was flowing too well for me. I had to let them know how to get to you.
That's fine. I appreciate it. So yeah, it's just beginning with, well, you have to have small wins in the beginning with the client. They want to see some small wins initially to really confirm, yeah, this is the right person. And there are so many ways to have a small win. But I lay out the plan with them and for them. We talk a lot together in the beginning. I'm on call. They have any financial question, they're calling me. But I lay out the roadmap based on where they want to go financially. Now, your listeners are going to be like, I can't believe she said that. It all starts with the budget. We don't like that word. We don't want to be near a budget. When I tell you, I know the habits of wealthy people. They know where their money is going.
Please tell them.
They know.
I ask all the time, do you think that wealthy people know where their money is, or do they just spend because they have money? And every broke or non-wealthy resource person will say, oh no, they just have plenty. They just come and go as they please. And I'm like, no. They know exactly where their money is. They know if they buy this car, what percent of their income, net worth, or however they're getting it, they know what percent it is. Now, when you go buy a car, it's 20% of your income.
Right.
When they buy a car, it's 1% or 0.5% of their income. They know exactly where their money. I'm so happy.
Exactly. Yeah. And people like a budget. Yes, that's the foundation of financial planning. If you can't track it, how are you going to manage your money? And so the awareness is so enlightening. You know, once my clients are working with me, they love a budget, because what I challenge them to do, Derick, is make an appointment with your money. Sit down once a week. Find out where your money went. And I don't mean sign on to wherever you bank and just scroll through what you spent. No, there's a psychology around. I have quite a few friends who are, psychologists. You can write down those expenses, and they're just looking at me like, what? Yes, I need you to write it down because I need you to feel it.
But I think that was a trick of the system. I won't say the devil. I won't say the enemy. I'm gonna say the system.
Right.
You remember back in the day, we're old enough that back in the day, you used to go give them your savings book.
Yes.
Give it back to you. You had a checkbook with the register, so you had a running total. Now you just swipe your debit card.
If we can only bring that back, passbook. Because the credit, that plastic is meant to disconnect you from your money. It's designed to disconnect you.
Because it's not real.
It's not real.
Yeah.
No.
I love it.
It's funny. I have a funny story. So tying to what you're saying, one of the assignments I give my clients is I want you to start taking cash with you to the store. Well, everybody's going to know I have cash. Well, no, they're not. If you don't tell them, they don't know what's in your wallet. So, whatever store is like challenging that you go shopping, I know we've got the Target boycott. People ain't going to Target no more.
Right.
But wherever you're shopping, make a list and take cash. That's what wealthy people do. And guess what?
Do they?
Oh, yes. In the beginning.
I know that one.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Because you ever hear people say, I went in there for 3 items. I came out with 20 because you had a piece of plastic in your purse and you could swipe.
That's why
if you take all that,
I don't go to Costco.
Take all that plastic out your purse. I know it sounds crazy, but it works.
Oh my goodness.
I've seen it time and time again. Driver's license and cash is the only thing I need in your wallet or your purse when you leave the house and you go into the store. And if you only put $150 in your purse or your wallet, guess what? You're not going to spend more than $150.
I call it cash and carry. I had a client text me the other day. They were watching this video I sent them, and it was talking about cash and carry. And when I said to people in person, they're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, okay,
right.
If you don't have cash, you don't carry anything out the store.
That's right.
Like, oh.
Yeah. I had a client that started playing a game with herself. She was like, okay, Keva, I took $100 to the store, wherever she went. She would call me from the parking lot. Girl, I spent $80. I got an extra 20. I'm putting that in my little They would start playing. I'm telling you, it works.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So as you are explaining, what you do with clients and how you do it, what is the difference in your perception, having worn all the hats? What's the difference between what you're doing now as a money coach and an investment advisor?
Yes. So when I was a investment advisor, there was just lots more pressure because I was with firms, and again, those firms were amazing. They're not bad firms, but they are in business to make money and to acquire assets. And that was my job, to go get clients. And so I learned a lot about that, but I wanted to spend more time with my clients. I just didn't feel like I was really serving them the way they wanted to be served. And so that's why I hung on my own shingle since 2008, actually. And I get to spend time with my clients because I say to my clients all the time, you don't want to pay me for the rest of your life. I'm going to give you the blueprint, the knowledge, and the education you need to soar on your own financially. But it's going to take about 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It depends client to client. But I'm spending time with my clients and I'm educating them and I'm demystifying this Wall Street, persona of, there's all these financial secrets that only the wealthy know. And I just demystify the money game, really. I hate to call it a game, but I demystify it for them.
The game. I believe, and I'm saying this as a question, I believe that you have to, you got to do something special to really, truly be able to make money long-term in the market, understanding that how much money is made in Chicago, in New York, in DC, in California or LA, wherever they trade there. And these little other pockets, I'm in Northwest Ohio. I'm not at a trading desk, and so I'm not getting, the biggest reports and all those things. And I think that there's so much insider trading that's not really talked about. Would you, how would you tell somebody to invest, understanding that a lot of that's going on?
Yeah, so I call it shut out that noise. I understand exactly what you said. There's so much inside, there's high frequency trading, right? Where trades are happening in milliseconds, right? Ignore that noise and let's get on to your financial blueprint. Yeah. Ignore the noise. I have at it over there. We're putting together a strategy. We're putting together a methodology. I've been doing this a long time. It works. I want to say this too, especially for your listeners, Derick. Whenever you're looking to get returns from an investment, like the stock market, a mutual fund, an ETF, a bond, a municipal bond, a corporate bond, whatever it is, here's what I want you to remember. And I said it earlier, it's about exact numbers. What kind of return do you need? Here's the other piece. How can I say? I used to manage money for big corporations early on in my career, and I saw how big corporations manage their money. They take the emotion out.
Mm-hmm.
They put together something that's called, and I'll send it to you actually, Derick. It's called the style sheet. Large cap, mid cap, small cap stocks, balanced, blend. You have it's 9 categories that any stock can fit in. And what corporations do, they make sure they have investments in each one of those 9 boxes. That's why what they call institutional or corporate money,
Right,
always outperforms the individual, because they follow a strategy, they take the emotion out, and they shut out the noise. They just are on their mission. It's myopic. Use the big word. It's very myopic for them.
Yes,
very. And that's how I, really take my client on that journey. Read every headline on Kiplinger, Wall Street Journal, Barron's, have at it. But it doesn't necessarily apply to you.
Right.
That's just information.
Exactly.
Bring it to me, and I'll tell you if it fits on where you're trying to go.
So let me tell you a quick story, and the listeners will enjoy this story as well. So I had a client, and she was discriminated against, and she won this lawsuit.
Okay.
So she and her husband got, I don't know, they got like a couple $100,000. And so they came to me, they found me somehow, I don't know how, but they found me, and we put together an investment strategy. They loved the strategy. And so we were doing what we do, no big deal. So then she came to me and she says, hey, by the way, I still have $13,000 from my nursing's, TSA, kind of like a 401k. And I need to do something with that. It's okay, no problem. So we rolled that over. And so I said, well, let's talk about this. How do you want to fit this in the strategy? She goes, listen, I don't care what you do with it. I was like, oh, really? She's like, I don't care. I'm like, okay. So they were young. When I say young, they were, mid-20s. So I took the money and I bought $13,000 worth of America Online. Now, I'm sure you remember the America Online story, but America Online this was before it started to do what it did, but let me tell everybody what it did. So what America Online did was, when a stock gets too high in price, it becomes unaffordable, if I can use that term, or untenable or undesirable at such a high ticket price. So this stock was at $75 when we bought it. It went to $150. And so AOL says, we don't want people not being able to afford our stock. And plus we know how to get rich. So they split it. Yeah. So of course, if you had 100 shares, you now have 200 shares at 75 instead of 100 shares at 150. And so this process happened like 4 or 5 times in a row. So we had like $250,000 in AOL. And so
at this point, Derick.
Huh?
You were golden to them at this point.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I called them up, and we weren't quite at 250, but we were broaching. I think it was like $180,000. So I called them up and I said, listen, I have no crystal ball, but if I were you, I would take half or more, most of my money off the table, and let's put it in the other portfolio and let's diversify it and go get our 7 to 8% and be happy. But they were transfixed on how they were doubling their money every couple of years, because it wasn't even taking that long for this to continue to do it. And they said, no, we don't want to do it. We don't do it. So I sent them a couple emails. No, it might have been letters back then. I don't remember if it was emails or letters, but I sent them a couple letters saying, okay, I advise you do X, Y, Z. You said you don't want to do it. That's for clarification. Just put it in writing. So, of course, the fairy tale ends one day. They did allow me to take like 50 off the table. And long story short, this just tells people or shows people what we were talking about, the emotion. They did not want to sell. Her exact verbiage was, I love my AOL.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to sell. Of course, it tanked. And I think we ended up getting out. I think we ended up with $120,000 from a $13,000, that's still incredible. Yeah. But they were pissed, and they came after me. Okay. Why didn't we sell this? And I'm like, listen, okay, let me hold on.
I say because I knew what was coming.
Yeah,
you have no control.
So when Keva says, and it's Keva at Keva Money Coach on IG, just for those of you that are listening, when Keva says, you've got to take the emotion out of the process as best as possible, trust me, she's not lying to you. It is critical for you to not get emotional. Now, here's a question I want to ask you, and then you can finish up with any gold nuggets you want to share with the audience. Do you remember when Mitt Romney was running for president?
Yes.
Okay. You're from the DC area. You remember that.
Yeah.
And do you remember when he had to disclose his financials and they ended up saying he paid next to no taxes? And then they disclosed how many advisors he had helping him get to that point.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting here and I'm going, okay, this dude has 4 or 5 of the smartest people known to money helping him not pay taxes. Yes, he's paid them, a lot of money, but nothing compared to what he would have paid in taxes. And we can't convince people that they need a money coach. Right. It baffles me.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, how can we convince people that if wealthy people need help, they don't do it themselves? Why do they think they don't need help?
Yeah. Well, especially in the Black and brown community, we don't want to talk about money. We don't want to reveal what our financial situation is. Let's just start there, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be judged. I tell my clients all the time, been through a divorce. I have filed bankruptcy one point in my life. I've had cars repossessed. I've been in the trenches in my 20s and early 30s. I've been there. All right. I didn't take my own advice. I was young. I just wasn't practicing what I should have, but I woke up very soon. But here's the thing. Those aren't your clients, of course. I'm not convincing anyone. I'm not convincing
anyone. Not anymore.
We'll see our value, right?
But I started in the church too, so I used to try to drag them along.
Yeah, I know. I did too at one time. But at this seasoned, when I said I don't take every client, I can tell when someone's serious and someone isn't. Yeah. I can tell. And so those just aren't our clients, and we just have to wish them well. We just have to wish them well because we know what we bring.
Yeah, no, I have a very difficult time with that because my experience unequivocally, undeniably says no. But they say, I'm really serious. I really want to get better. And and you go, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, and then, it's an 11, and they can't make it 30 days with getting their financials together to get to the budget, to get, and it drives me. It just, I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm just too soft or something.
No, I feel your pain. I do. A lot of times I do, will go through my client's budget with them live on Zoom. Sometimes that's the only way I can get them to do it.
Really?
Live. I will pull up the sheet. We're going to plug in, for a client that probably is with me for 6 months. They paid me well. Listen, I just need we're going to share a screen, pull up your bank account. Here's the budget sheet. We're just going to make this happen right now.
Wow.
And they'll do it.
It's so funny how vastly different people are, because I'll do some things and you're like, I am not doing that. And I'm not going to do some things that you're doing. It's really cool because I have my clients, listen to me. We're going to Zoom and we're going to go over your stuff. And I need your sheet 2 days before the meeting.
Yeah, see.
And if you don't have your sheet 2 days before the meeting, I'm canceling the meeting.
Right. But again, keep in mind, I handpick my clients. That sounds very haughty. I don't mean to sound like that. But I only target a certain number of clients, and it's the ones that are serious, that understand my value, that are paying, they will pay my fee up front. They're committed. Now, I will have to do some hand holding, just with the example I gave you, but it's fine because they paid me and they're in it. They're in it. They're like, help me win, and I can see it.
So let me ask you this question, because this is a question that I do see online periodically. Yeah. It sounds like that you're potentially helping people that have money, they're just not managing it properly. Is that no, really? Okay, so if they're paying you up front, because most people, they're like, well, I don't have any money. How am I supposed to pay you for it? And why would I pay you that much?
Oh, yeah. So let me say this. That's a great question. People find money.
I call it magic money.
For. I guarantee you, the people that said that, they go on vacation every year. They're buying whatever they're buying. Mm-hmm. People find money for what they want to find money for.
Yeah.
When you're ready to get serious, you come back and call me.
So I need to be more of a stickler on that part, right? Versus saying, okay, well, let's get you started and we'll figure it out. Yeah.
No.
All right. Sorry.
I've done that. It's not that I've never done that. I've done that and I learned. Okay.
Well, I just don't learn. I mean, I just want to help people so bad. That's why I wrote the book. And that's why I do these lectures and why I do these podcasts, because you want people to, I want us to do better, because, you know, we don't grow up in a household with people talking about money, as you've already said. And it's taboo for everyone, but it's really taboo for us. And most of the time it's because we don't have any, so we don't want to be embarrassed about what we don't have. So, hey, everyone, listen, we're going to ask Keva to give us one or two final thoughts that she believes will help you become more financially stable. And then I'm going to have you go to follow her on Instagram at Keva Money Coach I always want to say .com. I don't know why, but it's on Instagram, and it's at Keva, Keva Money Coach. Keva, do you have any parting gold nuggets that you want to share with the audience?
Absolutely. So a few things. Surround your money with experts. I can't say it loud enough. That's how wealthy people become wealthy. They surround their money with experts. You have your own, job, your career. You're focused on that. You don't have the time to become an expert in this world of money. People don't. Wealthy people surround their money with experts. That's why they're wealthy. Get a team. Get a financial advisor, a coach, a good CPA, a good insurance agent. Have your estate plan in place. See, that's where we lose wealth, a transfer in the Black and brown communities. We don't have our estate plan in place.
Right.
Huge. You know that a huge clip is lost. Yeah. Here's the other thing too, and your listeners, I don't know how old they are, but I have to say it. Start saving for retirement. It's a must. I'm tired of seeing 70, 65, 80-year-olds still working because they never saved. And they're hurting. They have medical conditions, but they have to work because they never saved.
Yeah.
It's horrible to see.
I'll tell you a real life story. This is so real life. It still affects me to this day. I had this woman, and I won't say her name, but she's a great woman, right? Yeah. And she had a store on the Ohio-Michigan line. Okay. And her store, if there was stuff in the store, nobody noticed it because she was selling lottery tickets, right? Oh, okay. So she got all the auto workers from Monroe, from Toledo. They all would, because they were right there on the line.
Right.
And her store was packed. I mean, we're talking lines. We're talking payday, best day ever for her business. And she was just killing it. And I'm helping her invest her money, and we're investing. It just felt like we were just investing stacks on stacks. Every couple months, she was giving me another $25,000 to invest for her. And, then her kids had needed some money, so we did some things. Long story short, she ended up selling her store and doing some other things, moving out of town, blah, 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 blah. So one day I'm going into this store. I don't know what store it was, but it was a store with a checker, like at the door, right? Like they check your cart like Costco does.
Oh, yeah.
And she was the checker. Oh. And I'm looking at her. And I gave her the biggest hug ever because I recognized she was significantly older. I guess we were significantly older, but I recognized her even though she looked so much older. And we both started crying because she's standing as a checkout lady, broke. She had to. I said, "Are you doing this for fun?" She goes, "Oh, you won't believe the story of my life after I left you. I should have stayed around you. You're just good energy, blah, 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 blah." But what Keva's telling you, oh my God, if you're a checkout person at a store, make it because you want to get out the house, not because you have to. So good point, Keva. Last question, because we could be doing this forever, and we're going to have you back. But what do you think about? I have strong feelings about this conversation that I'm going to call legacy. Everybody's pushing legacy, and I'm going to wrap into the legacy the be your own bank information that you hear a lot of. What's your take on that?
Be your own bank is absolutely on point. Okay. It's absolutely on point. It's life-changing for families. It really is. And it's building generational wealth. The only caveat or cautionary piece of that is you have to be careful where you get your annuity product, because there's hundreds of types of annuities with so many moving parts. You just be sure, again, you're working with a professional that can help you navigate so you get to the right insurance product, which is an annuity, to be your own bank. Because there are some phenomenal companies out there, I'm not going to name them, that have phenomenal, what they call infinite banking, capabilities within their products. I love it. Right. Here's the other, if I could just say this really quick too, I don't know how much time do we have?
We got time. Go for
it. We're good?
Yeah.
Here's generational wealth. And I learned this from my first job when I moved to Washington, D.C. in 1986. Generational wealth can be built off of $10,000. And I'm going to give you a short version. If you put $10,000 in an account, and let's say it's in the account of a 3-year-old, okay? You don't tell anyone else in the family. It could be your own child. It could be a niece, or it could be a nephew. You let that $10,000 sit until that child is, let's say, 33, right? For 30 years. That child invests that trust. You put it in a trust, you invest it. The only stipulation for that young person to inherit that trust is you take half of the value, which could be about $100,000 at that point. He takes, or she takes half. They do whatever they want with it. They take the other half and they roll it over the $50,000. You let $50,000 sit for 30 years, you darn near have a millionaire.
Right.
That's generational wealth, just off in 2 generations, but just from $10,000.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I have very, very strong opposing views. And my opposing view, and I don't know, I think we might have talked about this. I don't remember. We talked when we first met, we talked a little about 10 different things. But my problem is what you said, the $10,000. If we look at the average American worker, or if you guys that are listening, go Google what percent of workers live paycheck to paycheck. And what percent, you can also Google what percent of people have $1,000 saved anywhere. I mean, the numbers are abysmal. And so I see wealthy entertainers, athletes, maybe some other people that are talking about the things that they're able to do because they have significant resources, where Johnny and Martha have 2 kids and they don't have $500 saved. They got $8,000 of credit card debt, and they're asking me about be your own bank. And I'm like, okay, great idea, but not for you. Right? I mean, you're not close.
Right.
And I think that these things distract the masses from doing what's truly necessary to get to the point that they should be having those conversations. Now, if you were going to say, and I thought you were going to say, take the $10,000 and invest it, and then buy life insurance with the interest, right? That's what I thought you were going to say, because, most of them have become wealthy through insurance.
Yes, correct.
So,
absolutely.
But there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. Mm-hmm. I just people just get so caught up in the glitz and the glamour, and it just happens to be what glitz and glamour is gleaming today. And people call me, I heard I should have a trust. Okay, do you own a house? No. Do you have $1,000? No. Okay, well,
right. What are we protecting? Right.
For what? But I want to get there. Okay, well, you need to do this. Well, that's boring. No, well, that's what you need, a budget. Go back to what you said. You need a budget. Well, no, I want a trust. No, you need a budget before you can get a trust.
Right. But yeah, it's so many ways, as you say, to become wealthy. It's just what's going to work for your client that they're going to stick to that plan. There's so many ways to become wealthy. So many. Yeah.
Well, as you said, surround yourself, and that is the biggest first step that you can do. I want to thank you for your time. We've been doing 30-minute interviews. We just did an hour, a little over an hour. You're amazing. Anytime you get someone with your caliber and your pedigree on, we want every second with you that we can get. But promise me that you'll come back so we can talk about some other financial things that are going to change the trajectory of our community's lives.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Derick. I appreciate you.
All right. Awesome. Hang out in the green room, and I'll be right back.
Take care. All right.
So, you heard a plethora of nuggets. I mean, you've heard way more than I can recount, but let's just go with the big ones. Wealthy people know where their money is. Wealthy people surround themselves with experts to help them guide their way. Keva mentioned having a team. You need a banker. You need an accountant. You need a money coach. So when she talked about what you need and getting a team together, those are the things that you need. But trust and believe, if you spend every dime that comes in the house and you're living check to check, you'll never get there. So let's be wise. Let's be smart. Let's not fall into the trap of not talking about your money, even in your own house. I mean, my parents didn't want to talk about why things were so tight, but you heard them fighting about it, but they want to talk about it.
My household too.
Yeah. So understand, living the 24K life is about you elevating your life, your money, your mindset, your body, your spirituality, and your relationships. So what we want you to walk away with is the understanding that when you get your money right, you can afford to go hire those experts that we were talking about. When you get your money right, you can go hire that fitness trainer. You can hire that spiritual coach. You can go hire the people that you need to become and live your 24K life. I'm Derick Gant. Be your best. Bring your best. Leave nothing to chance.